What up, y'all? It's your man Quest, and this is your marriage moment. Let's go. All right, so last week was kind of a rough week, and it kind of bled over into this week. I'm talking about to the point where I was borderline unproductive, just because of barrage of bad news last week. It was just like one thing after the other. But the one thing that I think topped it for me and for a number of people was the loss, and I've been taking my time talking about it, is the loss of our good friend, Chris Daniel. And I won't go into all the different things that I could say about Chris Daniel, but one thing I will say is that Chris created impact. Yeah, let that be the word for this week, or the phrase this week: create impact. And that's what Chris did. No matter who you were or where you came from, when he spoke to you, you felt special. You felt like he got you as a person, like this dude understands me. And what Chris was famous for, and it's probably the reason why he was so effective at making you feel special, was Chris revamped the DISC assessment. For those of you who are familiar with the DISC assessment, it's an assessment that companies give to their employees from time to time to find out what their personalities are and where their strengths are as far as their personality is concerned. Chris, as my man BK would say, put his DNA on it and touched that thing, revamped it, and turned it into the 4 animals assessment, where he would classify you either as a gorilla, a flamingo, a chameleon, or a turtle. And we can go into that another time. But what it did was it allowed him to understand in depth who people were as it relates to their personality, such that when he came to talk to you, he would immediately switch based upon what he observed you to be. And then he would talk to you according to who you were as a person, which I'm talking about. You want to talk about a game changer? And I'm saying that the way that, here's the funny thing. I've known Chris for less than 5 years. I would say 3 years, 4 years tops, maybe. And the amount of impact that he created, not only in me as a person, but in my marriage, right? Unbelievable. And I'm saying that we should be creating impact in our marriages the same way. The question is, are you creating that impact, right? And I found out that the way that you create impact in your marriage is that you need to, I'm saying that Chris created impact because he knew who people were as a person. I'm saying that in order for you to create impact in your marriage, you need to know who your spouse is as a person. See, some of us have knowledge of our spouse, but you really don't know your spouse as a person. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I shouldn't say that's not necessarily a bad thing. It is a bad thing, but I'm not condemning anybody for it. I'm just saying you haven't taken the time to personally know in a sacred and intimate way who your spouse is. Because once you do that, you can speak to who they are as a person. If you do anything for them or to them, you can do that in relation to who they are as a person and create impact. You will not be able to create impact until you know who your spouse is in a sacred and intimate way. And I'm saying this week, as you navigate through, if it's just you and your spouse, if you and your spouse have children together, if y'all have a family, as you're navigating through all the different areas, challenges, difficulties, mountain high experiences, valley low, and everything in between, I'm saying that you should be creating impact in a major way. And in order for you to create impact, you must know who they are as a person. So do me a favor. Everybody wants to be fruitful, multiply, and have dominion, right? That's the goal. And I'm saying don't focus on the goal. Focus on the activity. And the activity is creating impact, right? And the activity of creating impact is getting to know who your spouse is as a person, right? Y'all know what I always say, from shaky to good, from good to great. Ultimately, we want our marriages to be phenomenal. But guess what? Phenomenal don't just happen. They're not handing it out at the store and you can't buy it. You got to work for it. And I'm saying specifically working on getting to know who your spouse is so that you can create impact, lasting impact. Get to know your spouse.